everyone, it's been a while. I'm trying to embrace myself to not cry, but this video is gonna bring out the tears. What I'm about to talk about, I have made several attempts at this video, so I'm gonna try my best to keep my thoughts together. This is just coming from the top of my head, so if I bounce around, sorry about that. We're gonna be talking about a lot of emotional stuff in this video, and I think it's very important because everyone's gonna go through grief and loss at one point, so this video might help you, but in case you cannot get through this video, I don't blame you. I am going to talk about my personal loss, how I deal with it, and how I kind of am still going, because you guys wonder, how do you manage so many losses at the rescue for hamsters, gerbils, or mice? Thank you for being here, and if you just happen to appreciate the channel, what we do, and this video, please hit like and also leave an algorithm comment. It will help out, because I've been gone for a while, so I'm trying to get back into it. Thank you so much for your support. There's two types of me personally grieving. There is the grieving when it comes to you find your animal pass away, or there's me grieving when you know your animal's on the way out. So the first one I'll talk about is when you found them pass away, because it's a little bit easier. You don't have to be through that very traumatic, stressful process of watching them decline. But when you find them pass away, usually it's either I knew that this was coming or it was a shock. And with the recent experience with Cookie Monsta, my personal hamster that I had from Hubba Hubba Hamstery in Oregon, he ended up becoming very old, about 2.5 years old. With him, he was showing signs of just being a senior. Hair loss, or hair thinning, not really hair loss too much, but a lot on the belly. His activity levels went down. However, he became very personal with me at the end because he wasn't always like that. He was very reclusive. So at the end, he became more friendly with me, but he became slower to the point where he didn't use his wheel. A lot of seniors that I have cared for at the end of the life stage, they usually don't use their wheel, so they actually just appreciate just walking around their enclosure. If there was no bad signs or symptoms, like a lot of the times if they're in pain, they're usually like hunch, that's a hunch. And then there's also the breathing like this, squinting of eyes, just the wobbliness too, like sometimes when they move, they can't really move, they're just off balance, or like bobbing their head, stroke or a seizure. But with him, there was nothing. There was just him slowly looking like he's becoming more and more of a senior, and he might have just passed away from old age, which was nice because I've had so much tragedy when it comes to hamsters passing away where it was not pretty. I remember there was a couple of them that were bloody. This scene that looks almost like a crime scene. I mean, it traumatized me. And I do appreciate the life and death cycle. So I do appreciate animals after they pass away. I find beauty in that. I have posted about that before. Some people get upset, but others are all like, I understand, that's the way you grieve. At least that part is a lot easier than what I'm about to talk about next. So just keep that in mind. And if you see me fidgeting a little bit in this video, it can be actually kind of uncomfortable. If you think, well, Munchie, you don't really look too uncomfortable, you're talking very openly about that. Anxiety comes in many forms. So when you can euthanize, when your vet says, okay, end of life stage, there's not more we can do here, we should euthanize them to prevent them from suffering, please do. Please, please, please. We have done that for some of our animals that we were able to get to the vet, and they're like, yep, there's nothing more we can do here. Then they have to euthanize them. There is some animals that went through surgery that did not come out of surgery. And that was just, that right there is a shock. That is something that is unexpected. One of the hamsters that we were going to do eye surgery on ended up having a blood clot that was very, she either said rare or uncommon. I think she said rare, but it can happen. And it did. And we lost her. So that was really shocking. Like, I cried because it just felt like if she didn't have surgery, she would still be alive. But at the same time, if she didn't have surgery, then she would have had a shorter life. And it's one of those trying to find balance. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you really, really can. But that hits so much harder than if you see it coming. There are some where, like, I happen to have pyometra in some of these females where they are openly bleeding. You see them having issues from their private area, and that's where you could tell, oh, I need to have surgery and get them fixed. But sometimes it just happens so quickly that there's no turning back and trying to schedule for surgery, especially in today where there's not enough vets, but too many pet owners, too many appointments. You can't have them all seen. And so we've actually lost a few animals because unfortunately from like a week and a half to 2 weeks out for surgery, it's too far along. And then we've had to lose them to that. And that's been so traumatic where it's just like, damn, you know, it sucks. And not everyone around here does surgery on hamsters. People don't even have exotic vets at their vet anymore. Vets that I've recommended to people, they say, sorry, we're not seeing any exotic animals because our exotic vet is no longer here. There is such a shortage of exotic vets, and that has caused so much stress for me. Whereas I'm sure people out there that live in very like faraway towns too, you guys are probably struggling to find exotic vets, and I hear you. It can be very stressful. Just call around to see where you could take your animal to before an emergency happens. That's very important. I do want to make a note of that in this video because I don't want you guys to have stress the way that I've had stress during this whole rescue journey of mine. And then there's those that you cannot get to the vet because it happens at 12 o'clock in the morning and they go super quick, where when you find them, then they pass away within like half an hour to an hour. And they do the whole quick breath. It looks kind of deep, but it's not. It's just a and they start almost seemingly like they're yawning, but they're not. Their breathing afterwards is very shallow. It's very hard to tell if they are moving or not. Even though they are cold, if they are still able to bend their arms and move around, they're still alive. Just very hard to see them breathe. I've had to, for several occasions, and you guys have seen my posts on Instagram about this, had to say goodbye to an animal while they were in my arms. At this point, their organs have failed or are failing. Thankfully, they go quickly, but symptoms just, you don't see them right away. One day they could be fine, the next you see them and you're like, what just happened? What's going on? I kind of mentioned the guilt, especially when losing an animal where you feel like you could have done something differently, like with the whole eye surgery. But there are sometimes things that you just can't control. It might feel like you caused it, but then you could find out from like a necropsy, for instance, like at least, 24 hours after the animal passes away, you put the animal in the refrigerator, then you could take it to your vets, they can examine exactly what happened so you can get a little bit of closure. Sometimes you just feel like you caused it. And hopefully you didn't cause it, because I do know that there is probably some people out there that might have caused it. So let me talk about grief that you did not cause and grief that you did cause and how to address that. So grief you didn't cause, not your fault. I know you might say it is, it's not your fault. If you find closure and proof that it was not caused by you, I know it's gonna seem like, it's still your fault, you had the animal, you took care of it, this is the end and outcome of what happened to it. Don't feel bad. Even though we wish we could have held on to them for like 4, 5, 10, 20, like so many years. It's just the type of animal that they are. And these little guys, they go through a lot. They get a lot of problems, they're stress prone. Don't beat yourself up over it. I see a lot of people beating themselves up so much that they just fall out. They have a bad experience because they beat themselves so emotionally and possibly physically up because of the passing of an animal. Please understand, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that go through that grieving process, and you are loved, all right? You did nothing wrong. You just simply loved this animal so much that it was just really hard for you to just be okay with their passing. You did nothing wrong. You are loved. Now, the second one, where you did cause it. There was an oopsie. There was an accident. It has happened. And these are things that you're like, oh my God. I am the worst person in the world. No, you're not. You are not the worst person in the world, all right? Everyone makes mistakes. It sucks because we want everything to always be good. That way there could be no bad, but there is always gonna be yin and yang. You will need to just understand that you are not a monster. You are not a terrible person. I know you're gonna have a struggle with your inner self. You can learn from your mistakes by talking with others about this. I know there's some people that will just drag you through the mud, call you a terrible human being. Sometimes you have to just talk about it with your inner circle, with your personal family, or just with yourself. And even though this animal is gone, you fully respected this animal. You tried doing good with this animal. We are not perfect. We all make mistakes. We cannot have 100% happy, healthy lives. We cannot be 100% right or wrong all the time. This is life, all right? If you can respectfully acknowledge it that you did this and this was bad, that means you can pay your respects to the animal by also learning from your mistakes, by doing something positive from this negative outcome. So try your best. It may take time, but just know that you are not a terrible person. If you guys are wondering how do I manage to do this, and it has to do with my own mental state at that time. If I am mentally well, I can handle it a lot better. If I am mentally stressed that week and not handling it, not doing okay, I mean, I'm wearing a Fitbit so I can keep track of my well-being a little bit better, then it's not gonna be a good time. Sometimes on the positive side, look at it as like, well, this animal lost her life, so they can give it to another that's in need of like a sanctuary, just someone saving them, helping them out from a bad situation, which usually is either unintentional or intentional neglect. Someone just doesn't care about the animal anymore, passes it off, neglect. Someone unintentionally provided with the wrong care, passing it off because they had to move, medical, etc., unintentional. But there's been a lot of times when an animal comes to us with medical needs and it's literally put so much strain because I can't find a break. So in the beginning, I might seem like I'm up here and being like, well, I'm trucking on through it because that means I can help out another one. But now that I'm at this point in my life of being like for small animal rescue for like half a decade in this now, it's a lot. It's a lot. When you are rescuing, you have more stress than you would ever imagine. Someone that just started their rescue last year already has to take a break. The grieving process for these animals, especially where they originally come from or how long you've had them for, knowing their background and history, it can be a lot for that too. I try to take it easy now. I try to go on breaks. You see me posting on social media, hey, some animal just passed away, I have to take a hiatus. If I don't take care of that stress and just keep having stress on top of stress, I'm gonna become sicker and sicker, which unfortunately has happened for the last couple of years, which I will talk about in another video. That's how I deal with it. Just take it easy if you can, and don't do too much. So the next thing I'll talk about is celebrating your animal after death with either burying, you can cremate, there's many different ways. Sometimes it's easy to make little print molds of them to remember them by. I like doing that, especially if an animal has impacted me greatly. Or a portrait, getting an artist to paint a portrait of your animal so you can display them. That's how I memorize Banana, for instance. If you guys remember my brachycephalic hamster, the very first one I ever rescued. Oh my gosh, little Banana. I miss him and love him so much. So when it comes to burying or cremating, a lot of people choose cremation just because they might live in an apartment or a place where they can't bury the animal. Burying is more eco-friendly to me, in my opinion, just because it just naturally decomposes in the ground. Now that I live here, I have to cremate my animals, but it is still a good option because that means you can keep their ashes, and that does cost money. It's nice if you guys have like a little planter pot, you can bury them in your planter pot. I know of some people that honor their animals by like taxidermy, which I don't mean like, you know, keeping the fur on, but like, I forgot what it's called. It's like taxidermy. I'm saying the wrong words now, but it's where they recover their bones and they clean off their bones and they display them again. Some people have done that. That's actually really cool, but just know it will take time and you will get through this. Because I've had to repeat it several times in my life, I kind of know what to expect. Some people might not. This might be their first rodeo, so this might be a little hard, especially coming from me. So hopefully I'm giving off at least good advice about how to grieve and all that stuff. So with me, I try to take it one step at a time. I try to kind of pave it forward in a positive way about like, well, this animal passed away, but I helped them out. They had a good life. Don't feel so bad that it's over. Smile because it happened. Keep helping, but also make sure to help yourself. Take breaks when need be. Things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video and learning about how I grieve and how I process loss of a hamster or just a small animal in general. And I'll see you guys in the future. Thank you again for watching. And it's nice to see you guys again. So take care. Bye.